What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid and welcome to my guide for Metal Gear Solid Delta. In this video we are going to be going over all 64 locations for both Kerotons and GAKOs. This is highly important to collect, as the Kerotons, collecting all 64 gives you the stealth camo at the end of the game. However, the GAKOs, once you collect all 64 of them, you are actually rewarded with the ghillie suit, an invaluable item for getting the Foxhound rank, and just a fun item in general. Now please note, some locations are slightly different to the original MGS3. Likewise, the GAKOs are entirely new. They were not in the original, only the Kerotons were. We're also going to be going through this guide from the very start of the game. And please note, you can always check your progress in the pause menu down in the bottom hand right there. It shows you both the Kerotons and the GAKOs that you have. Also, these are permanently saved, okay? Even if you game over or you reload a save, you will not lose any progress on these, which thankfully means the driving sequence later is going to be infinitely easier. It's still going to be annoying, it's just going to be infinitely easier compared to the original version anyway. So, to start off with, what you want to do at the very start of the game is first grab your backpack. Once we have the backpack, we can finally start getting our equipment, which also means we will then be able to start shooting the Kerotons. There are going to be a Keroton and a GAKO in basically every single area of the game, and that also includes the very first area right now. So let's just skip to once all the codec calls and cutscenes are done. Okay, so once you grab your backpack and the cutscenes are over, you actually want to head back the way you came. So by crawling under the very first log, then you want to head up and to the left, going up the little hill. The GAKO and the Keroton for this first section are located just at the top of this, on top of the little rock here. Now, once you shoot the Keroton, that is perfectly fine. However, please note, the GAKOs are actually covered in like a rocky material, and so they can be a little bit hard to see. The first one isn't too bad, however, later GAKOs can be an incredible nightmare. So, with that said, let's move on to the second area now. Okay, GAKO and Keroton number 2 are located in the second area, the Dramuchij Swampland, aka where all the crocodiles are. For the first one, oh, I best get out of the mud actually before I die. The first one is located over on the middle island over there, right in the middle of the trees. You can actually see it already spinning. So this is the GAKO here. Now, the Keroton is actually a little bit further up, okay? So what you want to do is continue on as if you are actually doing the game normally, and then once you are over on the other side, the Keroton is actually located just on the side of the cliff. Right there, so just in between the trees. Right, area number 3. In the third area, Dramuchij's North, and yes, I'm going to butcher these pronunciations horribly. What you want to do is just run through the guards or kill them or stun them, whatever you want to do, it is entirely up to you. I've already done my first playthrough with no kills, so I'm just going to murder everything. The first of the third GAKO and Kerotons is located immediately in front of you on the tree right there. Once again, these will be slightly hidden and covered in armor, which do blend into the background. So if you can't see it the first time, just shoot around for a bit and you'll definitely eventually get it. As for the Keroton in this area, it is down in the bottom section, just sitting on top of the tree right here. And now let's move on to the next area. Okay, in the area where the bridge is that you can cross first, the first one is actually located right on top of the bridge. So once you actually take out the guards, then right on top of the left-hand pillar for the bridge is going to be the Keroton. Once you've got the Keroton, you want to cross over the bridge normally, ideally not falling off like me, just because I actually shot the ropes, unfortunately. It's fine though, nothing to see here. Okay, once you eventually get to the other side of the bridge, the gecko is actually going to be directly in front of you, just on top of the cliff. If you find the tall tree right there, look just to the right of it, and you'll see the small bit of armor. Now, please note that one is actually pretty difficult to see, so just shoot around for a bit and you should be golden. And the final set of geckos and kerotons in the Virtuous mission is number 5. These ones are located in Rasvit, the area where you actually find Sokolov. The first one is basically right below this metal staircase. If you come to the small hole in the wall, look through it and you will see the Keroton right there. As for the gecko, for this you want to head on around to near where the cardboard box is. And then once you enter into the room right here, the cardboard box is basically on top of these boxes. And the gecko is right here on the bookshelf, basically just on these little boxes. This is the last of the ones from the Virtuous mission. So at this point, you can just go ahead and finish the Virtuous mission and proceed on to the actual start of the next mission. Keroton and GAKO number 6 are actually located basically at the very start of Operation Snake Eater. Warning though, these two are incredibly missable, okay? If you actually drop down the ledge shortly after the mission starts, you will permanently lose access to getting these. So what you want to do as soon as the mission starts is basically proceed on to the first open area, okay? This is maybe like 5 steps forward after the initial codec calls. Come to the fallen log in the middle, go around it, and then you'll see sort of a giant log / tree that is toppled over. The gecko is located on the right-hand side of this tree, and the Keroton is located on the left-hand side underneath it. Once you've got them, you can safely move on to the next screen. After the cutscene with the boss where she destroys the plane using the Patriot gun, you can start getting GAKO number 7 and Keroton number 8. GAKO 7 and Keroton 7. Now, the GAKO is located just on the tree right next to the plane, slightly to the right at the top. Once you've got that, you can then move on over a little bit as if you were to advance, and the Keroton is located just on top of the rock over there. However, please note, do not proceed on to either at this point. Instead, we actually need to go back to where we started the Virtuous mission, as there are still geckos and Kerotons there that have now respawned and changed locations, so we need to go and shoot those new ones as well. So head over to the swampland, and these ones are actually pretty simple as well. You simply want to proceed down the path to the middle island, okay? Once you are in the middle island, where the crocodiles are, the GAKO is located on the tree to the left of where you come into this area right there. So if you stand right below the hornet's nest and look over to it, it's there. Also, make sure you collect this hornet's nest. You are going to need it later for a very missable item if you are after the trophies, but that's for a different video. For the Keroton, you want to simply roll over to this side, and the Keroton is right there behind the tree. Now we can move on back to the first area. Once all the way back at the very first area, this is where you started the game during the Virtuous mission. You want to go over towards the end of the cliff and look to the right. The GAKO is located just on the cliff right there. Now, do be warned, this one massively blends into the surroundings because of the rocks it's covered in. So it is basically, if you look to the tree here on the edge, just look to the left and it's basically just below the shrubbery right there. As for the Keroton, if you head over to the log that you can jump over, this leads into a little dead-end area. The Keroton is located basically directly in front of the log, just on the side of the cliff face there. And now with these, we can actually proceed all the way back to where we first found Sokolov and where we meet Eva. GAKO and Keroton number 10 are located in the Dolinviodo section, aka the section with the giant bridge. So for this, what you want to do is run over the bridge, as they are both located on the other side, basically right next to each other. Once you're across the bridge, immediately turn right, and these are located basically right next to each other. You have the Keroton super easily visible just up there, and the GAKO is once again slightly blended into the surroundings, but it's located basically just on this little ledge right here. Once you have them, we are done in this section and we can move on to fight the Ocelot unit. Once we are back at Rasvat, now you typically can't really get these straight away unless you pick up the AK at the very top there, as you have no weapon, or if you're on very easy mode, you do have the EZ gun. So the few Kerotons and GAKOs that I've just previously shown, you might have to get after either depending on the difficulty that you are playing on. However, for the Keroton here, you want to just slightly step up the first few steps, look to the left down on the floor near the drum cans, and the Keroton is there. As for GAKO number 11, that is actually just up on the roof. It is on one of the support beams right there. Basically the one right above the doorway. Once you have them, you are completely safe for this area, so finish all the cutscenes with Eva, do the Ocelot fight, and then you can move on. After the Ocelot fight in the Pbird area, aka the giant little lake/pond, once you come into the area, you want to head slightly over towards the right, and then we're going to go for a little swim. Now, we're basically aiming for the middle of this area, okay? And when I say the middle, I do mean in the actual water. Just be careful of the leeches in this section, as they can drain your stamina, and of course, the crocodiles. They're a bit more vicious than they were in the OG after all. Now, once you've made your way through the water, this is the ledge where the crocodile cap is. Towards your right is a tree. The GAKO is on top of that. And as for Keroton number 12, if you actually immediately dive right in front of this tree and then look to your left, it is just at the bottom of the tree on the left-hand side. As for the next section, you have two ways to get to this. You can either go the left route or the right route. It does not make any difference which way you want to go. For the purpose of this video, I am going to go towards the right, though. In Balcha Pass South, we have GAKO and Keroton number 13. Now, for this, you want to go through two of the electric fences, no matter which side you start the area with. For the GAKO, this is going to be the first one, and that is located basically at the second electrical fence. If you look all the way up, this is on the tree that you can climb. Okay, it is going to be on the second highest branch, which you can easily shoot from any side of the fence. As for the Keroton, for this one, once again, with the path is split into left or right. You can take the left or the right route. It does not matter in the slightest. I'm going to take the right route because it is a little bit closer to this section. All you are going to do is run around the little swampy mud area and then run towards the electric fence itself. It is going to be located in this small group of trees, basically right in the middle of them. Once you have them, you can move on to the next section for GAKO and Keroton at number 14. In the Balcha Pass base for Keroton number 14, you're going to immediately head inside the actual building, basically right in front of you. The first Keroton is going to be located under the desk on the right next to the actual chair. Once you've got that, immediately head outside, and now you want to head over to the actual storage unit just down here in the corner. Once you get down here, the GAKO is going to be located on the top of the actual building. And now you can safely move on to the next area. Now, in the Balcha crevice, this is the area that you fight Ocelot in. Do be warned, the GAKO here is remarkably hard to actually see. What you want to do is basically, if you look around the arena, go to the rock and the tree on the left-hand side of your section. Once you are on there, you want to look over towards the left-hand side a little, just above the grass, and the GAKO is right there. Now, once again, this one is notoriously difficult to see, okay? It blends in incredibly, incredibly well. One other thing you can do if you want to is you can throw a grenade over there, which will also do it. As for the Keroton, that is actually going to be immediately behind you, basically just on the left-hand side of the other ledge, right where the trees are. So right over there, just at the end of the ledge over there. Okay, and now you can safely fight Ocelot and head into the cave underground. Once you've done the Ocelot fight, so you're actually inside the cave, from where you first start, you want to head towards the left-hand side. Now, once you're in this section, okay, you're going to head around towards the left first, and then right above the little waterfall, this is where you get the torch from. Right above that is the GAKO. Now, don't worry too much about shooting that, as there is a much easier way to hit it later on, as it's basically on the path of where you go. It is directly in front of the crawl space that you need to go through to advance the story. To get the Keroton, however, you want to then turn left and go through this small crevice right opposite of where the torch is. Once you are in here, you want to keep following the path along and you'll come to a crawl space. Crawl through this and this will lead you to an area, a small room, with a bunch of bats. Once in that area, you then want to basically completely ignore the bats and proceed out the other side. So as you can see, there's another crawl space over here. This will bring you to another area where the night vision goggles are, as well as a small hole in the floor. Do not drop through the hole, as then you will struggle to hit the Keroton. The Keroton, however, is located just on side of the actual cliff face near the hole. So as you can see, there's the hole, and there is the Keroton right there. And now we're basically safe in this area, so you can advance on towards the pane. Once you have beat the pane, you want to head as if you are actually about to leave the area, but then as you get to the end of the water, turn right and go up the little ledge on the side of the cliff face. Then you want to go to the section where you can actually roll over to the pane's arena. The GAKO is just up to the left of that inside one of the holes. Once again, though, this one blends extremely into the actual area. So it is basically right there, just on the lower right-hand side of the opening. For the Keroton, the easiest way to get this one is to actually roll over to the pane's arena and then look up to the hole right above you. So here's the pane's arena. Go slightly to the back if you are having trouble seeing it, and it's just there on the little ledge. Okay, and now with that, we can safely move on to Keroton and GAKO number 18. For GAKO and Keroton number 18, you want to proceed through the cave entrance area. This is the section immediately after fighting the pane. As you are going through these small narrow corridors, you will eventually come to a slightly opened up area. On the left hand side of this area, there's going to be a small cave. Inside the cave, there are going to be some claymores, so feel free to get rid of them. Then head inside the cave and immediately turn around. Once you've turned around, just on top of the little ledge is going to be a Keroton right there. As for the GAKO, that is actually just a little bit further on, and this one is notoriously difficult to see as well. Come to the glowy mushroom cap right here, stand on it, and then look up slightly. It is going to be on the roof towards the end of the actual opening. And once again, this one massively, massively blends into the surroundings. And now we can move on to the actual water section for the next set. Okay, once we're actually in the river, towards the left, as soon as you get into this area, the Keroton is going to be right here, just behind a little ledge. So this is basically as soon as you get into the area. As for the actual GAKO, that is all the way down at the very, very bottom, just before the path splits into left or right. So once you get down towards the bottom, so there's where we need to go to get to the next screen. On the left of this area, just on the trees right here, you will indeed find the GAKO for this area. Now, for the next section, there are two ways we can go, left or right. We need to go to the left side first. The reason for this is there is going to be two GAKOs in either direction, so we might as well do the dead end first. So by taking the left-hand side. Okay, so once we are at the left-hand side, we want to immediately dive underwater and head slightly towards where the boat docks are. Just to the bottom left, there is going to be an underwater grate where the Keroton is just on the inside of it. Then for the GAKO, you want to come up out of the water, go up on the ledge as if you were going to grab the SVD sniper. And then the GAKO is located just on top of the wall right there, right above where the drum cans are. In the next section, this is basically where you can actually kill the end using the sniper rifle at the start of the area. What you want to do for the two GAKOs and Kerotons here is if you get into the water and immediately look to your left, the Keroton is going to be on the left-hand side of the water gate right there. And then the GAKO is going to be located slightly hidden again, just on the corner here. It is going to be slightly up and it will be hard to see as it does blend into the background. And now we can safely move on to the next area. Once we're inside the warehouse, head down towards the bottom left section. This is normally where a face paint is hidden. Once you are down here, you want to aim and immediately aim all the way up. It is on top of one of the roof beams right there. So that's where the Keroton is. As for GAKO number 22, for this one, we actually want to head all the way up the stairs to the very, very top, almost as if we're actually going to leave the area. However, before you leave the area, you want to immediately do a 180. Some of you keen-eyed people might have seen it right then, but there's the end of the area. Do a complete 180, and it is located on the big pipe right there. So it's right at the forefront of the pipe. And now we can move on for number 23. GAKO and Keroton at 23 are actually located in the exact area that you fight the fear in. Now, for these ones, they can be a little bit difficult. So that's the warehouse. So as soon as you drop down, you want to head forward through the trees and you'll come across this smaller tree in the very middle. This one is basically the smallest tree in the area, and it also has kind of a flat top, as you can see. The GAKO is located right on top of that. Now, there are numerous ways you can actually get it if you want to. So you can sort of come around and you can aim to the top. You can throw a grenade up. As you can see, though, it is slightly difficult to actually get. So you can see it right there between the tree branches. Once you have that, depending on where you are standing, if you look to where you actually need to go to advance the story, so this is going towards the Graniny Gorki lab, look slightly to the left, and then on the tree right next to that ledge is going to be the Keroton. And now with that, we can actually go to the outside of the Graniny Gorki lab for the next two. So number 24 is located right on the outside of the lab. If you go to basically the big main gate and then just look up, it is right there, right in the open. Very, very easy one to find. As for the Keroton, however, if you actually go up towards the end of the electrical fence, crouch down and crawl under the fence itself, the Keroton will be on the left-hand side of the area, just hidden in some trees right there. Now, you want to crawl through the vent, as we're going to immediately get number 25 as well. So GAKO number 25 is located as soon as you actually crawl through the vent. If you aim to the left and look up, it is going to be on this leftmost light fixture right there. As for the Keroton in this area, you want to simply run all the way over here, and it is going to be located just inside this building, which you need to shoot through the glass for. Now, there are going to be a bunch of GAKOs and Kerotons inside the building as well. So, we are actually going to do this in one foul swoop. So, we're going to enter the first floor right here, okay? And we're going to follow this path around. We're going to head along the right-hand path first, okay? So, we're going to go past the little library section. Then here on top of the lockers is Keroton number 26. Once you've got that, go down slightly towards the stairs and go through this door on the left for GAKO number 26, which is located above the middle window here. Once you have that GAKO, go back in the red door and go down the stairs. So this is going to now take you to the prison section of the area. Once you are actually in the prison section, go through the first main door and then into the little office right here. The GAKO number 27 is located in the corner just on top of the bookshelf right there. Once you've got that, come out and head all the way down to the actual bottom. So once you get down to the end open cell, that is where the Keroton number 27 is. And now with that, we are actually safe to head back up the stairs out of the prison section. For now, we can actually proceed on basically to the very end of this area, to the very end of the Graniny Gorki lab, as both the Keroton and the GAKO, well, the final Keroton and GAKO in this area, are actually located right next to each other. So we're just going to roll through the window there and head down as if we were going to try and complete this area. What we're going to do is we are going to run through towards the end of this section. So just inside this room right here where you will encounter one of the first scientists. The Keroton is over here on the left-hand side. And then for the final GAKO of the area, it is located as soon as you go through the next door in the main research area, just here in the corner next to the old-fashioned typewriter. And now, with that, we are done in the Graniny Gorki lab, so we can actually move on. For Keroton and GAKO number 29, this is located after the Fear. Once you've beaten the Fear and gone back through the warehouse, you'll end up in this section right here. Now, one thing to note is GAKO number 29 is, in my opinion, one of the absolute hardest to actually see. So, for the GAKO, we are going to walk slightly up to where the climbable tree is, immediately turn around, and it's going to be located right there in the corner of the building work, right on the little ledge in the middle. For the GAKO, we are going to completely do a 180. This is the climbable tree. As you can see, it is right there. If you stand right next to the climbable tree and look just to the left of it, okay, you'll have 3 trees. Well, essentially maybe 4. Look towards this thick one right here, and then slightly to the left of that is going to be the GAKO. Now, as I said, this one is notoriously difficult to see, okay? If you are having trouble, throw a grenade up there. That is one of the easiest ways to do it, or you can also use the shotgun and just blanket the entire area. You will eventually hit it, however, don't worry if it does take a few shots. As I say, it is hands down the most difficult one to see. And now we can advance on to the next section, Svyatogornyj West. And yes, I know I butchered the pronunciation for that one. Okay, once we are in this area, okay, we are actually going to take the left path. As you can see, the path splits to the right and to the left. We are going to immediately go to the left, okay, and we are going to slightly head over here to where these logs are right here. And then once we are here, okay, the Keroton is going to be just up on the little cliff face next to these logs. So there's the Keroton right there, and there's the small ditch going down, which I just fell in because of course I did. But hey, small bit of comedy for you guys. Anyway, Once you have that Keroton, okay, so remember the Keroton is over there, right there. Once you have that, come back to the start of the area and actually take the right-hand path. You are going to walk under 2 tree logs right here. Once you've walked over the second one, look to the left, okay? This is where the small logs are right here that you can actually hide behind. And then once you are here, immediately look left again onto the destroyed tree. And it's just sitting there right on top of the tree bark. This one is also pretty freaking difficult to actually see. Now, a really, really important note, once you have that, continue on. But you want to make sure you head out of the right-hand section of this area, okay? So if we just bring up the map really quick. Okay, yeah, I forgot it hasn't actually saved between playthroughs, but you can sort of make out where we're going to go. You see where the yellow dot is? Completely ignore that, okay? We're going to stick to the far right-hand side of this section area right here. And then we are going to head through the right-hand section just so we can head into another little dead end, Svyatogornyj East. Now, in the east, this is going to be where we get number 31 for the GAKO and the Keroton. Luckily enough, both of these are actually pretty easy to get. So what you want to do is run straight up to the building, okay? Now, the Keroton is actually located inside the building, and you can see it right there through the actual window. For the GAKO in this area, okay, you are going to turn left, and you see where this turret is right here. You want to stand in front of the turret, aiming at it. Look to the left, okay? This is where the path splits. You've got a little hill there, and you've got the shack there. Look up on top of this little hill right here, and it's located just towards the right of the tiny trees. Again, though, this one is kind of hard to see, so don't worry if it takes you a few shots. Once you have that one, we are actually done for this section, and you can move on and then fight the end. Or if you killed the end earlier, it is going to be replaced with a few Ocelot unit members. What I suggest you do is do the fight with the end or Ocelot unit first, and then we can go ahead and get the GAKOs and Kerotons in that area. Okay, in the south section of Sokrovenno, this is one of the maps where you fight the end in. Now, for this one, this is the area where you actually have the supply room right here on the left. You can either drop down the cliff right there, or you can run along the lower path right there from as soon as you enter the area. For the Keroton, it is located just behind the storage unit right there. And then for the GAKO, you want to immediately do a 180. So the GAKO is located between the middle path and the far right path, just next to a tree that you can actually climb up. It is located on the side of the mountain, basically right in the middle. This one is pretty easy to see. Now, because there are so many sections in this area, we're going to do this in one foul swoop. So, for the next Keroton, we are going to run through the middle left path first. Going through this middle path will take us to the north area where you can fight the end. Now, once you are in this particular area, okay, you want to run forward, hugging the right-hand wall. Once you get here towards the trees, so where it opens up a little bit, the Keroton is going to be located behind the tree on the right-hand side, right next to the actual cliff face. Once you have that Keroton, slightly turn towards the right where the area massively opens up and run through that section, going slightly up but also slightly to the side. And the GAKO is going to be located right here on the cliff wall, just below one of the ledges where the end can be, and also next to the giant log right here. Once we have this GAKO as well, we are then actually going to run all the way up and to the left exit. So we are not going to go towards where the ladder is for Snake Eater. Instead, we are going to go up to the very top and turn left. This is going to take us to the west section of this area. Then, once we actually make it through, the GAKO and Keroton number 34 are actually going to be incredibly easy to get in this section, because you only need to follow this river. So the GAKO is located just inside the small little hole at the very top of the river. It does blend in, but it's not too difficult to see. Once you shoot that, you can then immediately follow the river all the way to the very end. And the Keroton is actually going to be located in a very similar hole in the side of the cliff. The only difference is it's just at the other end. That is all. Once you get the Keroton down here, which as you can see, it is right there. Once you get this Keroton, we have all of the geckos and Kerotons from where we fight the end, which also means we are now more than halfway through with these collectibles. So now you can safely head on up to the ladder where the Snake Eater theme plays. Once you are at the ladder section, you want to run forward slightly, and then in the middle of the corridor, turn left, and the Keroton is located just behind one of the small pillars right here. As for the GAKO, so GAKO number 35, that is actually going to be located at the very top of the ladder. So just enjoy the Snake Eater theme while you play, and we'll resume once we get to the very top. Once you arrive at the very top of the ladder, the GAKO is located just on top of the pipework inside what is essentially the first little archwork on the left right there, just next to the actual like support columns for the pipe itself. And now you can safely move on out into the mountain range itself. Once out on the mountain, do just be warned, this is a point of no return. Once you actually drop down this ledge, you cannot go back for any of the previously acquired geckos or Kerotons. This is essentially a case of, if you don't have 36 of them at this point, you have unfortunately missed one. Okay, let's go get number 37 for them both, shall we? Now, these ones are actually quite easy to get. So what you want to do first of all is basically just run through the actual cliff face, and you can see the GAKO right here on this middle rock formation. So this is located right here at the very start of the actual rock formation itself. And then for the actual Keroton in this area, simply change your aim over to the right a little bit, and you can see it on the far cliff face in the back. Now, if you are struggling to hit that from there, you can also just run slightly up as if you were going to go to the next area, and you can actually stand right next to the edge, and you can also get it from here pretty easily. Now, we move on into the next mountain range itself. Okay. Once we are here, we're actually going to run slightly up at first for the Keroton or the GAKO. I can't remember which one's first off the top of my head. Anyway, that's the GAKO. So once you actually go up at two of the ramps, the GAKO is going to be located inside the shrubbery just up at the end of the second ramp. Now, for the Keroton, you actually need to run all the way through, okay? This is going to be located basically at the end of this section. Oh, he actually saw me. Oh, well. Yeah, so you simply run all the way through to the end of this section. It is going to be located... Not sure how they still saw me. But yeah, it's going to be located at the end where the storage units are. So let's just skip ahead to when we're there, shall we? Okay, now that I've slaughtered everyone, we are at the end of the section right here. So there are three little buildings here. The first one is where the RPG is, and the Keroton is located on the very top one towards the right. You can just see it right there. Now, if you are struggling to hit it, you can also move back a little bit more for a little bit more of it to appear. And then you can move on to the last of the mountain range sections. In the final mountain range section, you want to immediately go to the right as soon as you get into the area and head to the lowest turret right here. Stand next to that and aim slightly to the right, and the Keroton is down in the left-hand corner, just there on the other side of the mountain. Then for the GAKO, you actually want to run all the way up the mountain. It's not at the very, very top, however, so do just be warned. Simply head over the bridges, and then once you get to this little section right here, climb on up, go over that little bridge if you want to. However, you can basically get it from around here if you really want to. So stand on the bridge, aim at the turret. Slightly to the left, you'll see two logs sort of stuck together. And then above that, you'll see a piece of sheet metal with one more log. It is just above the piece of sheet metal on the left-hand side. And now we are done with that until we've actually met an Eva. So proceed on to the next section with the cutscenes. For GAKO and Keroton number 39, this is going to be located right after the cutscenes with Eva finish. You are going to need the SVD for these two though. So, for the first one, you are going to aim directly at the tower straight in front of you. Don't worry, it is basically the only one, so you can't get the wrong tower. You want to aim basically at the the 07, and the Keroton is just up on the red bit, slightly above the 0. Very hard to miss once you've actually scoped in. Now, for the GAKO, this one, a lot of people have actually had trouble with. I actually found it surprisingly easy to spot. However, basically, just go slightly to the ledge, look forward, and you see where all the white snow is? Just aim up slightly, and it's on the rock formation right at the top there. Now, one other way that people have decided to actually do this is if you actually look to where the tower is, look at the ground to the left, you'll see two red and white barrels. Aim in the middle of them, and then just scroll your aim down. And then that basically also takes you in line to it. However, again, I personally had no issues seeing that one, so use whichever method works best for you. Once we have those two, we can actually go back inside to where we had the cutscene with Eva. The next two are located in here. So once you get to the last door, the Keroton is on the right on a shelf, and the GAKO is actually immediately on the left, just on top of the building where there's a small hole in the roof. And now with that, we can actually proceed on to the next section where we fight the Fury, as that is going to be where the next GAKO and Keroton are. Once you get to the section where you fight the Fury and you've gone down the stairs leading to the actual arena, before you go down the ladder, do note you can get both of these during the actual fight itself. However, I do suggest getting the Keroton before the fight starts. Immediately in line with the corridor that you came from, you can find the Keroton over on the pipework directly in front of you. As for the GAKO, unfortunately, we cannot get that prior to starting the fight with the Fury. So we're going to drop down the ladder, start the cutscene, we're going to immediately skip the cutscene, and now, okay, we're going to run back down towards the starting area, head towards the ladder, okay, and then in this very first section right here, we're going to go to the first hole in the wall on the left, and the GAKO is located just inside there on a pipe. And now we're actually safe to finish the fight with the Fury off. Once you've beaten the Fury and you've actually arrived in Groznyj Grad, you can head up the actual stairs immediately after the ladder and go into this little middle section where sort of all the warehouse components are. The GAKO is located just on top of the end warehouse right next to the actual truck. So it is right there. As for the Keroton, that is located in the middle warehouse on the left-hand side, and it's just inside the doorway. So you just need to aim through the little door in the middle there to actually locate that. As for the next set, okay, from where the Keroton is, we're going to go up and around through the left-hand door. This leads us into the section where all of the tanks are. Once we load in, okay, we are going to go up to the actual tanks. Now, this GAKO is on the first row of tanks, and it is on the second tank in the row. It is located on the top, just near the little light right there. Once you have that GAKO, you want to proceed up to where the lookout tower is, go up slightly towards the fence and the gate, and it is located just in front of the door on the top of the stairway right there. Now we can actually go back through into the middle section of Groznyj Grad, as we are going to get number 44 for both GAKO and Keroton. Now for this one, we are actually going to slightly skip a section as well for now, as this one is actually located in a section near where we started this arena. You see those stairs right in front of us? That is where we are actually heading. So we're just going to run along right here. Once we get to the wall here where there's a small vent, never mind, we can't get through there. I was kind of hopeful, but it's fine. We just have to go through to the door right here. So once we go through that door, it's going to start us right next to a set of stairs. We are going to go up these stairs to the very top of the roof, okay? And then once we get to the roof, we're going to be able to get both the Keroton and the GAKO from up here. And telemarketer scam. Once we are on the roof right here, you can see the Keroton already over there. It's just on the corner of the building that we can't actually get up onto that roof with. But from where the Keroton is, look towards the right and you'll see a ladder, sorry, not a ladder, you'll see a light with the GAKO right on top of it. This is the sort of tower right in front of the tower that we had to shoot earlier. So here's the ladder leading down to the area, and there is the GAKO. And now we are basically done with Groznyj Grad. Instead, we just have to go down into the actual prison located right below us. So fall off the roof and head on inside. Now with these two, okay, the first one is going to be located at the right-hand section. So as soon as you come in, turn right and then right again. So this will take us into like a small little bedroom, and then the GAKO is located up on the shelf on the wall right there, just to the right of the very nice picture of Tommy Rawson. So we're going to leave there now, and we're going to actually go into the office, as the Keroton is located just under the desk right there. Once you have both of these, you can safely leave the actual prison unit. And now we just have two more to get on the outside of Groznyj Grad, and then we can safely go inside. So for this one, okay, we're going to go back through the door that we came in initially for this area. And then the GAKO is actually going to be right on the fence as soon as you actually come out of the area. So it's basically just next to the little search tower. Once you've got that GAKO, you're going to run up a little bit further to a storage unit right here. You're going to drop down the hole in the floor, go prone, and you are going to crawl the way we just came. Now for this, we're going to follow this pathway all the way along until we get to a section where we can actually turn right. It's basically all the way down there. So let's just jump forward a little, shall we? Okay, and we're here. You can also tell you're in the right spot, as there is a grate above you that lets a little bit of light through. But you're going to turn right, and the Keroton is located just there behind a steel grate. And now we have all the GAKOs and Kerotons from outside of Groznyj Grad, so let's head on inside the building, shall we? Once you get inside the building, GAKO number 47 is actually located right inside the door, just in the plant pot on the left. It is slightly hidden, however, it is closer to the right-hand side of the plant pot, and still should be pretty easy to find. Once you've got that, immediately head up the stairs towards the locker room / little offices, and then once you get to the very top of the stairs, the Keroton is going to be located on the right-hand side, on the middle bookshelf. And now you can proceed onwards to get Major Rykov's outfit, and then we'll move on. Once you have the outfit from Major Rykov, aka Raiden, Proceed through the hangar past the Shagohod into the actual next section, almost as if you were going to continue on with the story. Now, you don't really have to be wearing the costume or anything like that, as technically you need the ability to shoot, so you can either just wear it, take it off, stun the guards, and so on and so forth. Once you are in this little hallway, though, you're going to immediately turn to the left. The Keroton is located just outside of the window on top of one of the siren poles right there, as you can see. And then for the GAKO, that is located towards the end of the hallway, just outside on the window ledge right there. Once you've done them, you can easily just leave the area, put the outfit back on, and proceed on with the story. As now, we don't actually need to get any until after we've done the Sorrow and we've met Eva in the waterfall. So we're going to jump to that section. In the section right after you fight the Sorrow and before you meet Eva, there is a GAKO and Keroton in this section. However, please note, you do not need to get them instantly, okay? If you picked up the SAA ammo inside the sewer, then you can get them on your initial run through. If you didn't pick any ammo up, don't worry, you can proceed onwards, speak to Eva, get all your equipment, and then come back. However, I'm going to operate under the assumption that you did in fact pick the ammo up and you can get them straight off the get-go. If not, simply do this little bit in reverse. So the Keroton is located at the end of the little river/stream, basically right at the very start of the area after you fight the Sorrow. Once you've shot that, you can then move on up, go over the tree as if you were going towards Eva at the waterfall. And then, once you actually get to the waterfall, you want to stop and aim to the left-hand side of it, okay? So here's the waterfall just on the other side of this tree right here. There you go. You can see the waterfall right now, and you can also technically see the GAKO. So the GAKO is obviously right on the left-hand side of the waterfall. Basically, just stand next to the water, aim at the waterfall, look a little to the left, and it's on a little rock ledge right there. Now, do be warned, it does blend in quite a bit because of the greenery behind it and, of course, the rock face. Once you've got them, proceed on as normal, as the next two are inside the actual tunnel where Eva is. Once you've spoken to Eva, you want to head through the tunnel heading towards Groznyj Grad, and you'll notice these locked gates right here. Go to the second one, and then you'll find the GAKO located just on top of the boxes, just near the door there. Once you've got that, simply proceed on through the open door on the left at the end of this hallway, right where the actual ladder is that you can climb. However, do not climb that ladder. Simply head into the room through the door, and once you are inside the door, immediately aim up and to the left, and that is where the Keroton is. Once you have that one, you can then safely climb the ladder as normal. For number 51, once you get to the hangar where the Shagohod is, you want to immediately run up the stairs on your right-hand side. Once you get to the top, you can actually see the GAKO on the beams right here. It's basically on the third one in front of you. Now, you can sort of position yourself a little easier to find it if you want. I personally prefer just sort of standing next to the railing, kind of close to the supercomputer, and then crouching down and aiming through the little tiny triangle right there. It is basically right in the middle. Once you have that, you are going to go all the way along, okay? And then simply hang over the edge of the railing, drop down, and then once you are down here, you simply want to run over to where this maintenance guy is and these supercomputers are on the side. And then it is located in between the supercomputers, just behind one of the little railings right there. The next GAKO and Keroton are during the Volgin fight, so let's go to that. Once the fight with Volgin actually starts and you are looking directly at him, what you want to do is grab your weapon and aim to the right. You'll see sort of like a power conduit right here with 3 big wires coming out of it, and the GAKO is located on the very top of that unit right there. As for the Keroton, that is located on the opposite side of the arena at the very top near the boxes just there. Once you have both of those, feel free to beat Volgin. Now, once we have beaten Volgin, we are actually going on to the bike chase sequence. And make no mistake, these are the hardest Keroton and GAKOs to get in the whole game, okay? One thing I strongly cannot suggest enough is make a new save here. You have plenty of save slots for this sort of game. You have 30 save slots that you can use. Make a new save in every section of the bike chase. Do not rely on the autosave and do not rely on your own aiming skills. You are very likely to miss some of these at least once, okay? You have very, very limited chances to hit these. And remember, this is also harder than the original MGS3 because we are also aiming for GAKOs as well as Kerotons. So, let's talk tips. First of all, make sure you save your game, as I said. If you miss a Keroton or a GAKO, reload your save. Do not worry though, you do not need to hit both in the same run. For example, in this screen, let's say I hit the GAKO and missed the Keroton. What I can then do is load my save and I will still have the GAKO hit. I would just need to hit the Keroton. You do not need to save the game after hitting one. It is automatically marked off and kept even if you load your previous save, okay? So, for the first section in Groznyj Grad, I would actually suggest using the SVD, the sniper rifle. So I'm going to quickly throw that on right now. And all we have to do is in the bike sequence, just watch and let Eva go as normally. Then start aiming, and once Eva stops at the first tower, it is going to be up on top of the light switch on the first guard tower. Then you simply need to wait for Eva to start driving again. In the next section, okay, Eva will stop once more near the tanks. Obviously, we still have to wait for her to drive around for a little bit first. Enjoy the cinematic experience of it all. You know how these things go. Luckily enough, there's nothing we really need to do during this section. We don't need to shoot any of the guards, especially because of the difficulty we're on while doing this. However, do be noted, if you are trying to do a 0-kill run while doing this, then yeah, it might get a little awkward in the later sections, but I have a couple of tips for that. Okay, once you get to the tanks, Eva will stop again. However, the GAKO is located on the tower right here as well. Now, if you missed the Keroton, you can turn to the right, and you can also hit that from here as well. Once you have those two, okay, we are actually done in this section, and we are moving on to the south runway. So, let's head there next. Okay, after the initial set of cutscenes where Eva goes under the bridge and then you have Ocelot chasing you, you will end up in the runway south area. Once again, make a new save, okay? A new save at the start of every single bike sequence area. Trust me, you will be really glad that you actually did. Then you want to aim in front of the bike. Once you get to this area, Eva will stop sort of in the middle section right here. Now, she will go up and down a couple of times. However, as you can see, the GAKO is located on the right there on top of the drum cans. As for the Keroton, that is located over on the forklift on the left-hand side. These ones themselves are not too bad to actually get, so don't worry too much about these. Once you have these, though, you are actually safe now until you are on the actual runway. So, let's skip to that bit. Once you are out on the runway, this is where the Shagohod is actually chasing you. However, it is the first runway section where the Shagohod does not have a health bar. So what you're going to do is you're going to completely ignore the soldiers, okay? Aim towards the right, so you are looking at exactly where Eva is driving, okay? You will end up turning left onto the main runway. There we go. Now, one thing to note, okay, is if you aim to the left of this runway, you see these signs with numbers on them showing you how long of the runway is left. Okay, so that one's number 5. Then we have number 7 right there. The Keroton is on number 7. So again, be a little bit careful. Make sure you save at the start of this area, as these ones are hard to hit. Eva will not stop. Oh, I actually managed to hit that. Okay. But Eva will not stop for any of these. Okay, so make sure you definitely save, as you will probably be reloading a couple of times here. As for the next one, this is located right up near the plane. So there's number 10. It is located on the number 11 sign, and this is the GAKO, which is unfortunately a little hidden. Again, though, it is right next to the actual cutscene. If you do not get that, reload your save, because this will move you on to the next area once you actually make it to the plane itself. So that was number 55 for the geckos and Kerotons. Now, we are on to the second area. This is the area where the Shagohod actually has a health bar. Once again, though, feel free to completely ignore it. And now, what we want to do is, okay, we want to look to the left this time. So the first one, okay, is going to be on, once again, another one of the signs. So there's the Keroton. It is on the number 18 sign. It's very early as you come into this area. As for the GAKO, okay, this one is actually a little bit different. It is not located on a sign. Instead, it is located between 2 signs. It is located between sign 25 and 26. Now, during this time, you are going to be getting shot by the Shagohod as well. However, one thing to note is this is actually a trigger. So you see how we just said fire? As soon as he says fire for the missiles, that is where you can actually then shoot the GAKO. It is located on a fence between the 2 signs. So right there, between 24 and 25. Now, I already hit it, as I do think it's much easier to actually hit on the lead up just before the missiles actually hit you. Once you have them, we are safe for a little bit. Okay? As the next one is actually really simple. You have plenty of time for this. So just before you shoot the C4 on the bridge where the Shagohod is, make sure you stand up and aim down towards the bottom left of the bridge. The Keroton is over there on the beam. As for the GAKO, that is over on the actual cliff side, which I can't actually see. There it is. So it's just on the left of the cliff near the actual bridge, okay? And that is all you need to do in that section. Once you've done that, just beat the Shagohod as normally. However, once you are on foot fighting Volgin and the Shagohod, that is where we are going to get some more. So once you've done the stage 1 of the Shagohod fight and Volgin is on top of the Shagohod, equip your sniper rifle and aim at the giant tower. The Keroton is located just at the base of one of the tower legs, right there. Once you have that Keroton, you are actually going to turn around and head towards where the destroyed bridge is. On the closest side of the destroyed bridge, just on one of the red bits, the GAKO is right there. And now we can simply kill Volgin and move back onto the bike chase sequence. Okay, once you've beaten the Shagohod entirely and you're back on the bike chase, first of all, once again, make sure you create a brand new save, okay? You are probably going to be reloading this one a couple of times. Then I strongly suggest using the SVD for these next 2 Kerotons. I know some people have more luck with rocket launchers. Me personally, I had no luck with that, so I prefer the SVD for this section. However, SVD, RPG, M37, the shotgun, they all work just fine for this section, so try a couple of different weapons if you are struggling. What you want to do is aim in front of the bike where you are actually going. Now, for the first little section of this, you don't really need to worry, as it's just an endless chase sequence. Eventually, though, you will come to a tunnel. Now, as you are going through this tunnel, so this one right here, okay, as you are going through this, you will have a few seconds just after this to prepare. The next two, the Keroton and the GAKO coming up, are pretty close to one another, and either will not stop the bike during either of these. So once we go around this tunnel now, this corner, as soon as we see the tower, we're going to aim down at the vehicle right there. The GAKO is located on the front of the first car. Once you have that one, okay, either will circle around it, so if you do miss, you can use the shotgun right here, and that will be a little bit easier if you do struggle with the sniper. For the next one, it's basically right after this little stretch right here. You're going to aim between the two signs right here, between the two little barriers next to the car. That one I do suggest using the sniper for. Now, it is on to probably the hardest one in my opinion, okay? So what you want to do, I know I don't have the shotgun in this playthrough. However, as soon as you start, make a save. And I mean literally as soon as you start, because you only have a few seconds, okay? You only have a few seconds. So what you want to do is equip your shotgun at this point, and then immediately turn your camera towards the right, so you're looking directly in front of you. The Keroton is right there next to a rock as soon as the area starts. And as you can see, you had basically no time to hit that. So if you do miss, then just reload your save that you made. Now, as for the next one, the GAKO, keep looking in front of you. And again, this one is easier with the shotgun. You want to look basically where Eva is, slightly in front of her, okay? On the slight left-hand side, you are going to come to a long log on the left, and the GAKO is going to be hidden on top of that. It is a little bit further down right there, as you can see. So again, use the shotgun for those two. It makes them infinitely easier. One way to check if you have indeed hit them is pause the game and look in the bottom right-hand corner. As long as you have 2 ticks there, that means you got them both. And now we can safely move on to the next area. Now, the next two in Lazarevo North are arguably the hardest two in the entire game to get. You have almost no time to do it. So as soon as the area starts, make sure you save the game, okay? Once you load into the area, as long as you have saved, equip the shotgun. This is by far going to be the easiest weapon. Look immediately in front of the bike where you are going, and it is going to be slightly on the left-hand side. So right there. It is right on that rock as soon as the area starts. Once you get that, though, you need to immediately aim to the right, as the GAKO is right after it just as soon as you enter the river itself. These two are hands down the hardest of them all to get. Strongly suggest using the M37, the shotgun, for these, as once you go sort of close to them, it does have a pretty wide range, so you should be okay with that. But again, if not, just check the pause menu, see if you got them. If you didn't, simply reload your save. And now with that, we're actually perfectly safe until the bike sequence has ended, and we're also nearly done. We only have a couple more to get. For the next two, this is where we're actually with Eva walking through the forest itself. Simply proceed through the start without a care in the world. You really do not need to worry too much about this. Simply proceed through until you get to the point where you have caution on the top of your screen, which is going to be any second now. There we go, there's the cutscene. Okay, so once the cutscene is finished, okay, you are going to immediately take the right-hand path. The fork does split left or right, however, we want the right path, as both the Keroton and the GAKO are along this route. Now, as you are proceeding through, the soldiers will eventually catch up. That is perfectly fine. Just take them out as you would normally while you are heading up the route. Now, once you get to this log right here, that is where we need to be. However, the soldiers are here, so we're just going to go ahead and mow these down a little bit. Okay, once you get to this log right here, What you want to do is stand on the middle of this log, and then you want to look down to the left. That is where the Keroton is. And then immediately do a 180 and look down towards the right on the cliff face. That is where the GAKO is. And with that, we are now done with this section as well. We have 2 more Kerotons and 2 more GAKOs to get. So let's go grab them. Now, in the Svyatogornyj East section, this is the final area where Eva is following you just before the final boss. What you want to do is run through the first little area where a few of the guards are, and once again, you will come to another fork in the road. The Keroton is located just behind this giant tree in the middle of the fork. And there it is. So now all we have to do is head on over to the last section. It doesn't matter which route you take for this, the left or the right. Simply run through the area, okay? This is the last little bit where the final set of guards are. Take out the guards if you want to. It is entirely up to you. Me personally, I prefer just to take them out just because it makes life that much simpler in the end run. Okay, once the guards are taken out, as you can see, that right there is where we need to go. So that is the end of the area. That is the section that leads us to the boss fight. What you want to do is look to the left of that, and it is just on the cliff face there. Now, congratulations. That is all of the Kerotons and GAKOs found, except for 1 each. And they are both in the fight with the boss. So let's go ahead and jump to that arena. Now, once the fight with the boss actually starts, you will be in the flower area of the fight. Now, in here, the GAKOs and the Kerotons are basically located at the same point. What you want to do is look up. There are 2 trees, really tall trees, and the GAKO is on the one that is basically in front of where you start. As for the Keroton, that is actually located just to the right on the other largest tree in the area. And upon shooting both of these, that will give you 64 out of 64 Kerotons and GAKOs, and of course unlock their respective trophies as well. Not only that, once you finish the game with all 64 Kerotons obtained, you will obtain the stealth camo. Once you finish the game with all 64 GAKOs obtained, you will then obtain the ghillie suit, a must-have item for the Foxhound rank as it makes things infinitely easier. But that is going to be it for this guide, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed, and I really hope it has helped. If it has, please be sure to smash that like button and, of course, drop a comment down below. Or, alternatively, hit that hype button just below the stream. It is a major help to me, and I would really appreciate it. Until next time, though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.